everyone, and thank you for joining us for a meeting of the Tulare County Audit Committee. Great to see so many folks in attendance, although I know you're probably not the happiest because your attendance involves auditing, so and that's usually never fun, but we appreciate you all coming. We are going to go ahead and start the meeting with item number 1, public comments. At this time, members of the public may comment on any item within our jurisdiction not appearing on today's agenda. Public comment can and will be limited to 3 minutes. Is there anyone here wishing to address this board under public comment? Okay, seeing no one, I will move on now and take up item 2, which is a request to approve the meeting minutes from the October 8th, 2020 Audit Committee meeting. And yes, it's been 6 months since we've last met. Go ahead. Is that? I heard like a little peep. I mean,
well, they already beat me on the button.
Okay, never mind. So let's go ahead and do that. So in addition to pushing the button, you have to announce what you're doing, Council. I know you don't see it when you sit over on that side, but
I'm better at pressing the button.
All right. So we have a motion by Audit Committee member Flores, second by Chief Norman. Please vote. All right, we have a unanimous approval with Supervisor Valero not in attendance because he doesn't really like auditing. Next, we're going to move on and take up item 3, which is a request to elect the chair and vice chair of the Audit Committee.
Mr. Chair, I make the motion that we elect Pete Vanderpool as the chair and Charlie Norman as the vice chair.
Do we have a second to that motion?
I second that motion.
All right, you seconded it and you pushed the button. Good job, Jennifer. You're catching on. So we have a motion by, I'm just going to call you by your name instead of trying to be all formal, by Jason, a second by Jennifer. Please vote. Motion passes unanimously, 4-0, with Supervisor Valero not voting because he's not present. I'm going to use my discretion as the newly appointed chair with a request from my fellow committee member to take up item 9 first. She has a member of her staff who has a family commitment, so I will do that now and take up item 9, which is a request to review and accept the County Council Office Department Head Change Consulting Engagement Report. Are you going to be recusing yourself for this one? Or are you
yes, I will.
There's donuts from yesterday in the break room if you're interested. Okay.
Let me just read this real quick, if I may. Regarding agenda item 9, the Audit Committee's consideration of the County Council Department Head Change Audit. Since I'm now the head of that department, I am recusing myself to avoid any appearance of a conflict of interest. The clerk is requested to make this announcement part of the official record of today's meeting for this agenda item. Thank you.
It's great to see County Council recuse herself. She's always preparing the script for all of us, and we have to recuse ourselves. So nice to see that you can do it for yourself too. Thanks, Jen.
Good morning, members of the Audit Committee. My name is Amanda Manji. I'll be presenting on the County Council Office Department Head Change. A little background, the prior department head left the position October 10th, 2020, and the current was appointed October 11th, 2020. We reviewed the prior department head's last 2 months and the current department head's first month of activity after being appointed, making the scope August 10th, 2020 to November 11th, 2020. So during testing, we found that the office excelled in the following areas by submitting the cash memos, authorization to sign statement of fees form, inventory of personal property, and collecting the prior department head's personal assets, such as their laptop and cell phone timely. Submitting both the prior and current department heads' conflict of interest form 700s timely, and both appeared to be filled out appropriately. The prior department head's last paycheck and benefits payouts were tested without exception. In addition, the current department head's first paycheck was tested without exception. Moving on to finding A, voided receipts not initialed. Per inquiry with the office, we found that voided receipts are not initialed by an immediate supervisor as required per the cash manual. Not doing this increases the risk of cash or checks being misappropriated. For example, an employee could potentially collect the cash, void the entry, steal the cash, and it could go unnoticed. We recommend that the office ensure an immediate supervisor review all voided transactions and initial the voided receipts. Finding B, late access termination. During testing, we found that the building's alarm code, Novell, Enterprise, which is the county's payroll system, and ReportSmith, the county's payroll reporting system access were not removed timely. The prior department head's last working day was on a Thursday, and last official day as department head was on a Saturday. However, the office did not request access to be removed until the following Monday. If access is not removed timely, it increases the risk of unauthorized activity and potential loss for the county. We recommend that the office terminates access on an employee's last working day or consider terminating access early if it's not needed. Finding C, timesheet calculation error. Timesheets should be reviewed for accuracy to ensure there are no calculation errors. However, we discovered that the total hours indicated in the upper portion of both the prior and current department heads' timesheets were incorrect. It appears this was caused by a formula error on the timesheet template that the office uses. Since the total hours indicated on the bottom portion of both timesheets were correct and the department heads are exempt, the calculation error did not affect their overall pay. Because this engagement was limited in scope, we were unable to determine whether this calculation error also affects covered or non-exempt employees. Covered employees are paid based on hours worked rather than a fixed salary like exempt employees. Thus, if this calculation error does affect covered employees' timesheets, it could result in them being compensated incorrectly. We recommend that the office revise their timesheet template so that it calculates correctly. In addition, we recommended the office determines if covered employees have been affected by the calculation error and correct any errors that are found if necessary. Per the office's management response, corrections were made to the timesheet templates and covered employees' timesheets were reviewed. In addition, they confirmed that the formula error did not affect covered employees' timesheets and no employee compensation was affected by this formula error. I would like to thank the County Council Office for their time and cooperation during the engagement, and I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have.
Thank you, Hannah. Any questions or comments from board members? Okay, I was just glad to see that even attorneys make mistakes too, right? So that's kind of a nice thing once in a while. All right. So we will now entertain a motion.
I would move for approval.
All right, we have a motion by Chief Norman,
Second.
second by CAO Britt. Please vote. Motion passes 3-0 with County Council Jennifer not voting and Supervisor Valero not voting because he's not in attendance today. Back to our agenda, and thank you for indulging me for the rearranging of the agenda. We will take up item 4, which is a request to approve the Brown Armstrong Accountancy Corporation to conduct the audit of the fiscal year 2021 comprehensive annual financial report and single audit of federal awards.
Hey, good morning. My name is Kelsey Tolbert, Chief of Financial Reporting and Audits. We are seeking the Audit Committee's approval to hire Brown Armstrong Accountancy Corporation to conduct our audit for the fiscal year 2021 Comprehensive Annual Financial Report and Single Audit of Federal Awards. We are asking for approval in accordance with the Audit Committee bylaws, which states that the Audit Committee's responsibility is to exercise final approval for the appointment of external auditors. Brown Armstrong has been conducting our county's financial statements and federal grants, our audit for our county's financial statements and federal grants since fiscal year 2008, so for 13 consecutive years. We have built a very strong working relationship with them over these last 13 years. They also perform 9 audits for 9 other counties in California, including our neighboring counties of Fresno, Kern, and Madera. In addition, they perform audits for 25 special districts, 20 transit districts, 10 nonprofits, 9 healthcare plans, and 23 retirement plans, including the Tulare County Employees Retirement Association, or TSERA. So needless to say, they have a vast array of experience and exposure to many unique reporting situations, so they have been a great resource for us anytime we have questions on financial reporting. They also provide a 2-day training every year for their clients, where they talk about new GASB statements and then talk about topics on financial reporting and auditing. So they're always kind of helping us learn new things and walking us through new statements whenever they're issued. Although Brown Armstrong has been conducting our audit since fiscal year 2008, they rotate audit partners every 6 years, and that's in compliance with the California State Controller's Office. So there's always a fresh set of eyes on our financial statements. The scope of work to be performed, so the contract with Brown Armstrong will be for the period of May 1st, 2021 through April 30th, 2022. They will be contracted to audit the fiscal year 2021 comprehensive annual financial report, and they'll provide an opinion on whether it presents fairly in all material respects. In addition, they'll perform a single audit of the county's federal awards. And just so you know, a single audit is required for any non-federal entity that expends $750,000 or more in federal awards in a single year. So Brown Armstrong will express an opinion on the county's compliance and internal controls over major federal grant programs. With that said, again, we are seeking the Audit Committee's approval to hire Brown Armstrong for our 14th consecutive year, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Kelsey, quick question that I have. I know that we've had Brown Armstrong for a long time, and they do a great job, and I'm not going to take away from the job they do, but do we submit out the request for proposals and get responses from other firms as well, or is Brown Armstrong the only firm that actually responds?
So we haven't went out to bid since fiscal year 2012. At that time, they were at $78,000, and that was actually the very lowest bid, and so we went with them. And then in 19, 20, and this year, they've confirmed their price will be $70,600. So they've actually went down. So we have reason to believe they're very competitive.
Okay. All right. And I just want to make sure that we're being frequent and regular with RFPs, just to make sure that we're spreading the business as we can as a county, since we're a public agency. So
Okay.
that's the only point I would make. Any further questions, comments from
Yes.
Audit Committee members or members of the public? Go ahead.
Mr. Chair?
Go ahead, Chief.
What, just kind of off topic, but GASB, what number GASB are we on now currently?
I think the most recent, I want to say 97, but they haven't. We don't actually have to follow it for like a few more years, but they've come out. I think 97. I want to say. I don't know if anyone could confirm that, but.
I think we were like on GASB 17 when I first started doing budget. I'm so old. Thank you.
Chief, I didn't realize you kept up with this number.
Yeah, I don't even think they had GASB when I was born. Just want to point that out. But thank you, Kelsey. Appreciate your presentation. Chair will entertain direction from the committee if there's nothing further from members of the public or members of the committee.
I'll move for approval.
All right, we have a motion by Member Britt,
Second.
second by Member Flores. Please vote. Motion passes 4-0 with Supervisor Valero not voting because he's not in attendance, which I do have to say, I don't know if anybody went to the Board of Supervisors meeting on Tuesday. I specifically called out Supervisor Valero for not mentioning the Audit Committee meeting during Board of Supervisors matters, because he covers everything every time he goes to the restroom, everything else in his board matters. And I just said he probably isn't going to be here because he doesn't like auditing, and sure enough, he's not here. Just want to say that. Obviously, no one else thought that was as funny as I did. Next, we're going to move on to take on item 5, which is a request to approve Mike Edmonds to conduct a peer review of the internal audit function for the period of July 1st, 2016 through June 30th, 2021.
Yeah, so as I mentioned previously, per the Audit Committee bylaws, it is the Audit Committee's responsibility to exercise final approval for the appointment of external auditors. So we are seeking the Audit Committee's approval to hire Mike Edmonds to conduct a peer review of the internal audit function. Per the Institute of Internal Auditor Standards, or IIA standards, our internal audit function is required to undergo a peer review every 5 years by an independent external auditor. Our last peer review was conducted for the period ending June 30th, 2016, so we are due for our 5-year peer review this year. The purpose of a peer review is to assess conformance with IIA standards in the Code of Ethics, to identify opportunities to enhance audit processes, and to offer suggestions to improve the effectiveness of the internal audit activity. A little background about Mike Edmonds, who is a certified internal auditor, or CIA. He conducted our last peer review 5 years ago, in which we received the highest achievable score. He has over 35 years of government audit experience. He has also conducted 27 quality reviews for various governments and organizations nationwide, including the auditor's offices in Riverside, California, Honolulu, Hawaii, Tallahassee, Florida, Richmond, Virginia, Scottsdale, Arizona, and Atlanta, Georgia, just to name a few. So he goes all over the United States. He also has an extensive work history in the government sector, and he's currently employed as the Assistant City Auditor for the City of Oakland Auditor's Office. Scope of work that he'll perform, so Mr. Edmonds will review our written policies and procedures for compliance with IIA standards. He will review a sample of the audits that we've completed from July 1st, 2016 through June 30th, 2021. He will interview internal audit staff and management from the auditor's office to assess our understanding of and compliance with IIA standards and relevant quality control policies and procedures. In addition, he will interview management from other departments as well as members of the Audit Committee to assess their interactions and satisfaction with the Internal Audit Division. With that said, again, we are seeking the Audit Committee's approval to hire Mike Edmonds to conduct our peer review. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
So I've heard of traveling nurses, but I've never heard of traveling auditors, and I think Mike Edmonds is a traveling auditor, so that's a new one in my repertoire. That's kind of cool.
Yeah.
Good job, Mike Evans. Any further questions or comments from committee members or members of the public? All right, seeing, hearing none, I will entertain a motion.
I'd move for approval.
All right, we have a motion by Chief Norman,
Second.
second by Member Britt. Please vote. Motion passes 4-0 with Supervisor Valero not voting because he's not in attendance. Okay, next we're going to move on and take up item 6, which is a request to review and accept the Information Communication Technology Incoming Department Head Change Consulting Engagement Report. I saw Kenan in the audience. Kenan, are you here because you're worried about this, or you just want to hear it? Okay, good, good. You love auditing. Okay, welcome.
So the scope of this engagement was for the period of November 22nd through December 22nd, 2020. The IT director position was vacant from March 28th, 2020 through November 21st, 2020. So for about 8 months, and we typically do perform one engagement for the incoming and one combined engagement for the incoming and the outgoing. But because there was such a large lapse in time, we decided to perform 2 separate engagements, one for the outgoing, one for the incoming, and we actually presented the results of the outgoing one at the last Audit Committee meeting in October. So this engagement was solely focused on the incoming department head, who was appointed to the position on November 22nd, and we reviewed their first month of activity. Based on our testing, there were no findings noted for this engagement. All 3 cash receipts tested were deposited timely, and the current department head's first timesheet and new pay rate were tested without exception. Typically, we also review the new department head's expenditures for their first month, but he didn't have any. He didn't have any credit card expenses or travel claims, so the testing was very limited. But nonetheless, we'd like to congratulate Kenan and his staff on a clean audit, and we'd like to thank them for their time and cooperation.
All right, well, I'm gonna give it, I mean, that's a standing, that's the first time I've had a clean one here, so no, I'm kidding. Good job, Kenan. I mean, that's why Kenan wanted to come, he wanted the compliments, right? Good job, Kenan. All right, any further questions or comments? I know that was one, Peg has been here since, or had been here since the department's inception, and you've been here as well too, Kenan, but great to see that you've kind of learned and seen what these audit processes are about and doing things in the best interest of the county and carrying that forward. So just really something to be proud of in the auditing world, I think. Anything further?
And I think that mask has to have special tensile strength to contain that beard.
Hey, I just wonder where you two shop because you guys have the same kind of mask. Yeah.
Masks are us.
Masks are us, okay. All right.
Good job, Kenan. Move for approval.
All right, we have a motion by member Britt,
Second.
second by member Flores. Please vote. Motion passes 4-0 unanimous with Supervisor Valero not voting. Okay, next we're going to move on and take on item 7, which is a request to review and accept the Human Resources and Development Outgoing Department Head Change Consulting Engagement Report.
So I'll be presenting this one. The scope of the engagement was April 22nd, 2020 through June 22nd, 2020. The prior department head retired June 22nd, and no incoming department head has been named yet. As I mentioned, we typically perform one engagement for the outgoing and incoming, but because there hasn't been an incoming department head, this one is solely focused on the outgoing department head's last 2 months of activity, and we will perform a separate engagement when an incoming department head is named. Some strengths that we noted: the department's change fund was counted and reconciled without exception. The prior department head's personal assets were returned timely. The prior department head's Form 700 was submitted timely and appeared to be filled out appropriately. And the prior department head's timesheet and benefits payout were accurate. We did note some findings, starting with finding A, late deposit. On May 11th, the department's cumulative receipts on hand totaled over $30,000. Per the County of Tulare Cash Manual, cumulative receipts between $5,000 and $99,000 must be deposited the next business day. So in this case, it should have been deposited by May 12th. However, the deposit was not made until May 15th, when cumulative receipts on hand totaled over $36,000, so the deposit was 4 days late. Not depositing timely increases the risk of cash or checks to be misplaced or misappropriated, and therefore we recommended that the department adhere to the deposit frequency guidelines in the County of Tulare Cash Manual. Finding B, late forms. Before a department head leaves a position, certain forms are required to be completed. However, we found 3 forms were submitted late. Departments are required to submit a signed statement of fees form to the auditor's office monthly to report a reconciliation of cash collected during the month. Departments report the list of authorized signers for the form to the auditor's office using the authorization to sign statement of fees form. So anytime an authorized signer terminates or another needs to be added, departments are required to submit a revised form. However, we found that this form was not submitted until 8 days after the department head separation. In addition, a cash memo signed by the prior department head must be submitted to the auditor's office to turn over responsibility for cash balances. However, the cash memo was not submitted until 13 days after the department head separation. Furthermore, in accordance with California Government Code, an inventory of personal property signed by the prior department head must be filed with the clerk recorder's office in order to turn over responsibility for the department's capital assets. However, the form was not filed until 16 days after the department head separation. Not submitting these forms timely results in non-compliance and a lapse of accountability. Therefore, we recommended that required department head change forms be submitted timely. Finding C, late access termination. All access should be removed prior to a department head's separation from the county. However, we found that 3 types of access were not removed timely. The prior department head's U.S. bank credit card was canceled 11 days late. The combination to the safe where cash is stored was reset 13 days late. And the Tacoma's credit card was canceled 33 days late. If access is not removed timely, it could lead to unauthorized activity and potential loss for the county. I did want to note that the U.S. bank credit card was collected from the department head 26 business days prior to them separating. And the Tacoma's credit card was collected 13 days after separation. But although the U.S. bank credit card was collected prior to the department head leaving, it is still possible to charge the credit card without physical possession, such as through online purchases where the credit card information may have been stored. So if this were to occur, the county may not be able to recover the funds, causing an unnecessary loss for the county. Therefore, we recommended that the department ensure that all access is removed prior to separation from the county. So that concludes the results of this engagement. I'd like to thank HR&D for their time and cooperation, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions or comments?
Mr. Chair.
Go ahead.
So, Kelsey, remind me what's considered timely termination? Like, is that when GSA purchasing terminates the card? Is that when someone other than the department head has possession of it? What does that look like?
So
Just remind
it's
me.
on or before the department head's last day. So like in terms of the credit card, we're looking at when did purchasing, we get confirmation from purchasing, when did they cancel that card? But we also take into consideration when was it requested too, so.
Thank you.
Okay, yeah, go ahead, Jennifer. Actually, Jennifer used the computer technology, so I gotta acknowledge that here, Chief.
Kelsey, who in the departments typically have the authority to authorize that termination when it's the department head leaving? Do you know? Or does the is Loopy here? Who in your department would have had the ability to do that at this time, given that it's a department head? Usually you run things through the department head, but that wasn't, it's the department head's credit card, so I'm just wondering who would normally do that. Yes. Okay, thank you.
Okay, Chief?
Did I get the right button?
Yep, you got
Okay,
it.
very good. Is there any type of engagement for a long-term acting or a long-term interim department head?
No, we don't. I mean, other than like risk-based audits where we'll go in and we'll look at like timesheets or like a payroll audit or just internal controls in general for risk-based, but nothing where we're specifically just looking at that department head.
Okay, so if there's a long-term interim, you don't do any type of engagement process?
For a long-term interim, we do make sure they're taking responsibility over like the cash and the capital assets. So in that sense, we make sure like that happens.
Okay.
But and we do, if it is super long-term, we'll look at their first month of activity too, since basically they are becoming the department head for a period of time. But in terms of, I thought you meant at first, like if a department's been here like 30 years, would we go and look at them just to look at them? We don't do that.
Oh, no, this
but-
is nothing personal. I'm just curious as to somebody
Yeah.
that's appointed, long-time recruiting process, if there's
Yeah.
any engagement there.
Yeah. So if it's an interim and we know someone's not going to be appointed for a long time, we'll look at their activity as if they were the incoming department head.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any further questions or comments? Public comment? Okay, you guys have any problems with cats when you were doing this audit?
No,
The
we
prior
didn't.
department head really liked cats.
I know she did.
Okay, just checking. All right, thank you. Appreciate that, and I will now entertain direction from the committee.
I move for approval.
We have a motion by Member Flores, second by Chief Norman. Press the button, Chief, please, please vote. All right, motion passes 4-0 unanimous with Supervisor Valero not in attendance. Okay, next we're going to take up a request to review and accept the General Services Agency Department Head Change Consulting Engagement Report. Welcome back up, Amanda. I bet Kelsey was glad to sit down.
It's a nice little break. All right, so again, we reviewed the last 2 months for the prior department head who left the position on September 9th, 2020, and the current department head who also served as the interim department head was appointed October 11th, 2020. The ultimate scope of the engagement was July 9th, 2020 to November 11th, 2020. During testing, we found the agency excelled in the following areas by submitting the cash memos, inventory of personal property, and collecting the prior department head's personal assets, such as their laptop and cell phone, timely, submitting both the prior and current department heads' conflict of interest Form 700s timely, and both appeared to be filled out appropriately. The 2 change funds tested were counted and reconciled without exception. In addition, the current department head's first timesheet was tested without exception. Finding A, late deposits. Based on a review of 12 cash receipt deposits selected for testing, we found that 6 were not made timely. Of these 6, 1 totaling just over $1,600 was deposited 2 days late, and the remaining 5 totaling just over $300,000 were 1 day late. Not depositing funds timely increases the risk of cash or checks being misplaced or misappropriated. Due to the COVID-19 pandemic, we understand that it may have been difficult to make deposits timely due to the agency's staffing availabilities and other limitations. We recommended the agency adhere to the guidelines in the County of Tulare Cash Manual regarding the frequency of deposits for cash and checks to the county treasury or bank. Finding B, late form. As Kelsey previously mentioned, departments are required to submit the statement of fees form to remove the prior department head as an authorized signer. We found that this form was not submitted until 5 business days after the department head's departure from the county. If the form is not submitted timely, it results in out-of-date records and the inability to verify that the signatures of new authorized signers. We recommend that the agency ensure the form is submitted to the Auditor Controller's Office on or before the department head's last day. Finding C, late access termination. All access should be removed prior to the department head's separation from the county. However, we found that the U.S. Bank credit card, U.S. Bank Emergency Disaster credit card, online bank access, and access as a signer on bank accounts were all removed 1 business day late. In addition, their cell phone plan was canceled 4 business days late, and AFIN login access was requested to be removed 5 business days late. If access is not removed timely, it could lead to unauthorized activity and potential loss for the county. It should be noted that due to circumstances outside the agency's control, they were unable to remove access until after the department head's last day. The credit cards, online bank access, and removal as signer of on bank accounts were removed as soon as possible. We recommend the agency ensure that all access is removed prior to the separation from the county. Finding D, unsigned documents. To record the removal of the prior department head's responsibilities before leaving the position, several documents are required to be completed and signed by the prior department head. This certifies that documents are accurate and removes and/or transfers responsibility. Due to circumstances outside the agency's control, they were unable to obtain the prior department head's signature on the 5 forms listed on the slide. When forms lack signatures, it could create questions over accuracy, lapse in responsibility, lack of accountability of assets, unauthorized activity, and potential loss for the county. We recommend the agency make sure all forms are signed on or before the prior department head's last day. Finding E, unnecessary expenditure. The agency should review all credit card expenditures incurred by outgoing employees in a timely manner to ensure accuracy and appropriateness. However, we found that the prior department head paid for the registration of a conference that took place after leaving the position. Upon further inquiry, we found that the agency was unaware of the expenditure until after the deadline to request a refund. Therefore, they did not cancel the registration, nor did anyone attend the conference on behalf of the prior department head. The deadline to request a refund was 9 days after the prior department head's last day. Therefore, it appears that the agency did not review the prior department head's charges timely. This resulted in an unnecessary expenditure of $149. We recommend the agency should make sure all expenditures incurred by outgoing employees are reviewed in a timely manner and refunds are obtained when applicable in order to prevent unnecessary expenses for the county. Lastly, finding F, no written policies for the emergency credit card. Because emergencies are infrequent in nature, it's important to have written policies for the emergency disaster credit card that can be referenced, since the county's existing credit card policies do not apply to this specific card. Although not written, the agency has several guidelines for the use of the card. However, a lack of formal written policies and procedures may result in inconsistent and improper use of the card. So we recommend that the agency create these written policies to govern the emergency disaster credit card. So I'd like to thank General Services Agency for their time and cooperation, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
So I have 2 points / questions. Number one, this shows that stuff can go bad even in 8 months, because this department head was only with the county for 8 months. Brooke, you got your work cut out for you, because that's a lot of findings. I'm kidding. You're going to do just fine. But I do want to, my second point is I would like to nominate Jason Britt as a member of the Audit Committee to go after the previous department head for that $149 conference registration. So that means you have to talk to him again, Jason. So just want to point that out. All right, that's all I had. Jennifer?
Not really a question, more of a comment. I'm wondering, given the abrupt nature of the departure of these last 2 department heads that we just reviewed, the HR director and General Services Agency director, in situations like this where maybe the department might not be given advance notice of them leaving or what their last day would be, are there alternative policies or practices that we can come up with to help them get these things done timely, or where notice isn't given to the department and they leave abruptly?
Right, we can definitely look into implementing something that could maybe extend the deadline slightly to allow them, but that's something we'll probably have to come back to on.
And I don't know that we would want to extend the deadline necessarily. I think that we should have maybe an alternate department be responsible for that in those instances. So maybe have, not to pile on to the CAO's office, but the CAO's office is usually aware of a department head being terminated early or when their last day is going to be. So maybe that's something, or put it on county council since they're here too, and through the legal lens can know when a department head's going to be terminated. I just think that that's better than making any extension, because any kind of extension just leaves additional room for error. Just my opinion. Anything further? Chief Norman?
I just have a lot of stuff to move, so give me some advance notice or I'm going to be on the list.
Okay. All right. Anything further, members of the public? I just hope Cass Cook never leaves, and that way we don't have to do an audit of the auditor's office. That's my thought. Okay.
Move for approval.
I will entertain a motion. We have a motion by Member Britt,
I would second.
a second by Member Norman. Chief Norman, thanks. Press the button. All right. Motion passes unanimously, 4-0, with Supervisor Valero not in attendance. Okay, next we're going to move on and take up item 10, which is committee member and staff matters. Any matters for the good or bad of the order? Okay, seeing nothing, I will now move on to County Council's favorite item on any agenda. It means they're off the hook. Adjournment to the July 8th meeting. Thank you for attending today's Audit Committee meeting. We will see you after the 4th of July. Be safe and healthy. Go forth and do good things.